Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Coffee HEMA with me, Jamie McKeever. Today I want to talk about large tournaments and dividing tournaments by skill, more particularly why large tournaments suck as a format for pretty much everybody involved, and why increasingly I'm in favor of skill divisions of some kind, especially as HEMA kind of gets bigger and the differences between someone who's been doing it for 10 years and someone who's been doing it for their first tournament kind of grow compared to what they were 10 years ago. There is a certain appeal of a large tournament, right? You think about it, you think, oh great, there's so many people there. You look at the list of people, you're like, oh my god, these great fencers I want to go and fence with. And certainly you feel better if you do well in a tournament of 100 people than if you did well in a tournament of 16 people, right? Or 10 people, right? Better than 9 is very different to better than 99, assuming you won. And certainly the larger tournaments are more prestigious in certain ways, and that's partly a kind of a virtuous circle, right? People are going to them and they get large because they are prestigious, and then the people go. But from a competitor or an organizer's perspective, large tournaments actually really aren't very good. And particularly if they are following the standard format of a pool round followed by an elimination round up to the finals, which is what most tournaments still do. It's questionable whether that is itself a problem, but I'm not going to talk about that today. So if you think about a large tournament, the problem is you as a competitor don't actually get more fights, or maybe they've increased the size of the elimination round to correspond to it, in which case if you are a finalist you might be getting one more fight tops, or two more fights if it's really doubled, compared to a smaller tournament. So if a tournament of 25 people, let's say a tournament of pools of 6, right, followed by an elimination round. If there is a single round of pools, you're going to fight 5 people in your pool of 6. If you through the eliminations, let's say it's top 16, right, and you go all the way through the finals, you get one fight at 16, one fight at 8, one fight at 4, one fight semi-final, maybe a final. Okay, so you're getting kind of top 10 fights. I think I added one, I think it's 9. Whatever. Double the size of the tournament, and what happens is you get a second pool round. Presumably they also grow the elimination bracket correspondingly, so that's why I say you maybe get one more fight. Most of the people in that tournament, there's no chance of you coming across. And this is even worse when you're seeding the pools, because actually what happens is, particularly the people at the lower seeds, they're guaranteed to be split because they get put into different pools. They're not guaranteed, but they're much less likely to get to the elimination rounds. If they do get to the elimination rounds, they're probably scraped through, so they're then going to be fencing somebody who's right at the top. And as a result, actually, you're not really fencing people who are kind of at your skill level. You get no more fights, and the more pool rounds you add, the longer the tournament, but most of that time is just waiting around, right? And don't know about you, I go to a tournament to fence, not to stand around in my kit, or not to stand around wondering what's happening next. And I've had this before in events sort of early on where I've kind of done okay. That I've been like, okay, I'm done with my pools. Am I through eliminations? I don't know. And you're just waiting around for 3 hours, not knowing what's going to happen. Do I spar and get tired, or do I just wait and stay fresh? And I've had it before where I've done that, I've decided not to spar, and it's like, oh, I wasn't through by one person or something like that, right? So that really sucks. So in short, for all of these, why does the large tournament suck? You don't get more fights. There's loads of people you're never in the tournament, you're never going to interact with by tournament design. And you are really structuring it. So, the structures of fairness for an elimination tournament mean that you are designing out the ability to, you're designing out people being paired with somebody of a similar skill level to them. What's the solution? Well, you want to run a bigger, we want to have spaces, right? Because this is a big problem events are selling out. So the best solution that I've found that we've trialed it in Wessex. Albion Cup does it already by design. Skill divisions, right? It is a very different matchup for me fencing someone who's doing their first tournament versus someone who's doing their 50th, right? And for me, if I'm going to a tournament, it's because I want to test my skills against people who they're going to push me, right? And I'm sorry if this comes across arrogant or harsh, but if I'm fencing somebody who's never done a tournament before, they've only been fencing for a year, they're not going to push me in a tournament context. There are exceptions, right? People who've got 10 years background in some other martial art and this kind of stuff. They absolutely exist, but they're rare, and it's certainly not the norm. And if that is the case, then they'll quickly go through a couple tournaments and they'll be in a higher skill division, so it's fine. For me, I want to have several close fights right from the start, right? I much prefer something where I've got to work for it than something that is just kind of a given. And by having kind of A, B, beginners, splits, all this kind of stuff, intermediate, advanced, whatever you want to call it, I think it's a better experience for both the people at the top end of the spectrum and the bottom end of the spectrum in terms of their skill and experience levels. Because the new people don't go into a tournament expecting to lose all their fights, right? They get matched up with people who are kind of similar, and we saw this. We did beginners tournaments for the first time at Wessex this year. We saw this, that there were much fewer instances of anybody losing everything. Likewise, there were much fewer instances of somebody winning everything, right? Because of the way it matched up, it meant that there were lots of close fights. So in the pool round, you might get, A beats B, B beats C, C beats A, quite frequently as a kind of pattern. So people came out with, kind of a better feeling in terms of their ability levels. And also there were way fewer whitewashes, kind of 10-0 fights and all this kind of stuff. So these kind of close matchups of skill are, to my mind, way better tests in a tournament. The people who do lose out are the people who are at the boundaries. Maybe they don't lose out, but it's a bit more uncertain for them. And so the middle of the pack, in a classic seeding, they probably they got one fight against someone who's aspirational, that top person that they want to say, okay, well, that's where I want to get to. They got one fight against someone who's new that they can feel good about themselves because they whitewash somebody, and then they've got a bunch of relatively close fights. So that's actually quite a good experience if you're in the middle of the pack. Suddenly, if you split in the middle, those people are either now bottom seed in the top tournament or top seed in the bottom tournament, neither of which are fantastic experiences, depending on who you are, right? It varies to a certain extent. So that is the downside of this, but hopefully it's not that they get a terrible experience. They still get either a tournament where they're likely to win, or a tournament where they're really pushing their skills. And I do find that the skill gap, if you've done that, your bottom seed in a tournament like Albion A and something like that did far better than bottom seed in a general tournament. So it's not like they are quite as kind of extreme ends of the spectrum as you have with a non-skill division tournament. So a bit rambly, sorry, but the short version, to sum it all up, big tournaments, just increasing the size doesn't really help. Well, I forgot to say, actually, from an organizer perspective, it also having like 4 rounds of pools is really hard to manage for judging, because either you've got to take judges from the same tournament or you've got to get them from somewhere else. Or your judges are fucking exhausted at the end of an 8-hour judging day. So splitting the divisions also helps you in terms of managing the judging situation, which is another really important point from an organizer's perspective, because managing judges is a pain in the ass. So avoid big tournaments, I think. If you're deciding to organize a tournament, you want to have 100 longsword spaces. It's better to run 2 50 longsword spaces, or 48, whatever divides into your things. I would aim to have it so that all the pools are done in a single round. Multiple rounds of pools are a pain. And then, if you wanted to have enough that you had 3 rounds of pools, better to have 3 tournaments, beginners, intermediate, advanced, rather than try and have them all in one group, because people stop waiting around, people get weird matchups, people don't fence most of the people in the tournament. It's not good for you as organising judges, it's not good for the competitors who's doing it. There are other, especially for the competitor side, I recognise that some people disagree on that one. I'm not going to say that they're wrong. As I say, I think that the better experience is more extreme at either end of the spectrum. So the very experienced people in the tournament, the very unexperienced people in the tournament, they benefit the most from skill divisions because they get more interesting matchups. The people in the middle, it's questionable, and I think it probably is much more of a matter of taste, whether it's better for them or worse for them, depending on what they happen to like. Thanks for watching. I've got nothing else to say. I've got loads of other things to say, but I won't today.